We brought the kids in on August 10th, which was our first day of contact with them. That first day is really kind of weight room testing, paperwork, meetings, but we do cap the day off with a practice. So that night was our first practice in the Perk Stadium, which is always real exciting for the coaches and the players, whether you're a returner or you're a freshman. And so we've been going every day since. NCAA limits us to one practice a day. We've been in the stadium. Today was our first day out on the practice fields. Probably the biggest thing is just managing some of the humidity. It's been kind of a strange, even though the weather temperature-wise has been pleasant, I guess, temperatures, the humidity's been high. So we've really had to try to manage that. We've kind of pulled some minutes off of some practices just to be on the safe side. You got to guard from being overheated. The energy is fantastic. And which you would expect, especially those first 5 practices. The energy is exciting. I mean, you got a group of seniors who, one, are excited about launching into this season. They feel like they got something to prove. They really do. And it's not just the seniors, but it's those juniors and sophomores as well. So our energy's been fantastic. OND. Been real exciting to watch. Speaking of defense, I mean, to me, we return a lot of veterans there, where a year ago at this time we were a really immature defense, which really showed in early on in the season for us. But the neat thing is every one of those guys is back, other than really Matt Seitz, who we'd lost, I think it was the 5th game of the season last year. So this group of guys is you got a pretty veteran-laden group, if that makes sense. They're definitely starting where they left off, which was playing extremely physical defense, hard-nosed defense. That's kind of their trademark, I guess, with that group, in all reality. Offensively, it's been just great to see, Coach Jennings being his first, he was here with us during spring practices, but really his first fall camp with us. The installation process started last spring. I mean, and that's kind of the thing, people always say, well, first day of camp. Well, in all reality, back in the spring, we had 15 practices. That's really the start of camp for you. In all reality, believe it or not, that's the start of your 2018 season. And so for us, we've had 20 practices in preparation, if that makes sense, if you add the 5 that we've kind of stepped into. And we, with Coach Jennings, it's not like you're going to see us in some unique offense, but yeah, it is. His offense is going to be have his trademark, which we're going to be really back into kind of a more inside zone team, and really getting back to the true zone. And that's something that our guys have attached to real well, and obviously that's a wheelhouse for Coach Allen, our offensive line coach, and it's just really neat to see Coach Erickson kind of building the culture of the team as well as the scheme of it, the culture of the offense, as well as getting in the schemes. And so it's kind of a recap there, but it's been a very good 5 days, and obviously our big thing is focusing on today, and then what are we doing to get ready for tomorrow's practice.
Thanks, Coach. Open it up for questions. Spring ball versus fall camp. What's different about the deal?
Sure. Excuse me.
As far as practice.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, Arnie. For us, spring practices, we're not allowed to have helmets and shoulder pads, and we can do skelly. We can't do, obviously, you're not doing any tackling or anything like that. So spring is really a great time to really just focus in on the detail of what you got to do in each individual position, each individual technique. And so spring is a chance to break down the game for the kids, for the coaches, which really lays a nice foundation coming into camp. Now, would I prefer we had pads in the spring? Not a question. Not that I'm saying we want to, we're going to go full boat, junction boys or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But it does lay the foundation for coming into camp. You've been able to establish some habits. You've been able to establish a good foundation knowledge-wise of what their plays are and what they're going to do. Now you really, when you come into camp, so let me add on to this to give you more detail about camp. Our first 2 practices are just helmets. So again, you're not tackling, you're not hitting, you're not really running, against a defense or whatever it may be. And so really these last, since Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, have been our first padded practices. And those, we've been really excited. I've been really excited offensively because, defensively, you always anticipate your defense doing a little bit better in camp. But early on in camp, I feel good about some of the things our offense has really been able to do early on in camp. But so that's really kind of how it lays out. Is you spring ball is non-padded. You can do skelly, you can do throw the ball, you can run routes. Then you get into those first 2 days of camp, which is just helmets. And then now the last 3 days, so you can see there's kind of a progression with this whole process of where you're at. It's always exciting as heck when you get the pads on. I mean, the kids are just giddy. The coaches are giddy. It's a lot of fun.
Kevin, following up on the offensive coordinator, Pete, I know it was kind of a rocky road before he settled in or became the offensive coordinator. In meeting him this summer, I get the feeling that he fits in with this staff very well as being a good coach as well.
Pete has a personality where he's he's extremely intelligent. Biggest reason I hired him is he's very knowledgeable, but more so because he's a teacher. He's a consummate teacher. He's constantly looking to teach the lesson. His eyes are always looking at an opportunity to teach, whatever it may be, very seriously. Whether it's teaching a young man to be polite and to be a good person, or whether it's to teach him the 14-15 play. That's and so that's the thing that really drew him to me. Also, the other thing is he's a true leader that allows collaboration in the sense that he's looking to collaborate and has established relationships with his assistants. I go back to I'm a history guy. George Patton said, if we're all thinking alike, somebody should be fired. That he's a guy that wants people throwing out their ideas. He wants people bringing them to him. He'll be the decision maker in the end. And so his skill sets as a collaborator in managing a staff, I knew would fit in here very well. I've known Pete for over 10 years. And so I knew right off the bat he would, the camaraderie that he would develop in his staff, the professionalism that he would establish in his staff on the offensive side of the ball would be fantastic. Him and Brent Allen had experience working together at Carroll and a long-standing relationship. Tim Shields, our tight end coach, and him had been good friends for many years as well. So there was really kind of I know Nick Peshek had experience in contact with Pete. So there was a familiarity that allows you to get going with the task at hand, and that's teaching the kids. And it's been a great transition.
You talked about the culture of the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Found on that.
Yeah, it's developing that culture, that confidence in themselves and what they're doing. And I think, Arnie, any time, and it's interesting. Is there a culture of hard work? Not a question. Is there a culture of doing the right thing? Not a question. But you have different personalities. There's a chemistry also to that culture. And this is a tough thing to even put my finger on it, to be honest with you. But allowing that culture to develop and build it, whether it's leadership, whether it's expectation, culture is such an interesting thing because there's so many pieces to it. I know I'm not giving you a great answer, but it is a complex thing. And Pete's a guy that's always looking at how are people reacting individually, how are people reacting collectively. You know what I'm saying? What's going to get this group to go collectively? What's going to get this group to go, or what that person individually? And so, I mean, Pete's a guy that's really looks to develop that part of the game, which is so important, because that culture is what you're going to see when you're down by 10 and you're going in the fourth quarter. Is that, you know what I'm saying? That's what you're going to see. You're truly going to see a team's culture. You're truly going to see who they are, and Pete knows that, and that's people will. That's how we are as human beings, and I'm really excited about it. You talk to Pete, he's going to tell you, what's he want to do as an offensive coordinator? Score, and then score, and then score, and score again. I mean, that sounds terribly simplistic, but it really, to me, ties together who he is. No, that is what his job is as an old coordinator. I'm sorry, guys, knocking that down. But it's everything that comes behind that scoring, whether it's building your culture, building your offense, and that does lie at the foundation of it all, is your culture of your room, people being comfortable with each other, people being confident in each other, people trusting each other. That's what it is. Culture is a really complex, interesting premise. It really is.
Rolling right along, you said you feel good about some of the things that you've seen so far on offense. Without giving away too much, what do you like?
The thing I'm liking right now is we've lost a couple of really good offensive linemen. To be honest with you, that left side with Mitchell Schauer and Jordan. And that concerned me coming into this. And I'm feeling really good, because on that left side is Matt Sager, who played a lot of football for us at the left tackle position. Quinn Miners, who's a sophomore for us, who I just think, I know offensive linemen don't get a lot of attention, by the media and things. I mean, it's the running backs, but he's a young man that played a lot of football for us as a freshman. In my years of coaching, he played as much football as a freshman as any old lineman I've been around. So I feel really good about that. I feel really good about the physicality of that old line group. That's the part that, to me, now, Coach Allen and Coach O'Grady's helping with the old line as well this year. I mean, they'll both tell you, are they where they need to be? Heck no. That's you're always looking to get better the next day. But are where we need to be as far as in camp? Fantastic. Feel great with where we're at this point. They're establishing a sense of physicality up front. That's been a trademark for us, and pretty danged important for us. And Brian Barrett, who's a big guy, that I think we're going to have some size with Brian Barrett at the right guard. I mean, you look at our Nate Truan, Brian Barrett, and Quinn Miners at that center and two guards. That's some big dudes. That's some big physical dudes that like to knock people back. And that's such a big piece of running the zone, is to have that type of physicality up front. So, yeah, I'm very excited about that. One of the things I'm very excited is Cole Wilbur, very relaxed. He's very relaxed. And that is exciting to me. Cole puts a lot of pressure on himself, and I think, he would be the first to tell you he's really come into this season just a lot more relaxed and putting less pressure on himself, and it shows. I mean, he's throwing some balls that are like, whoa, and more consistently throwing balls like that. And I think seeing him relaxed. The other thing I'm excited about is wide receivers. Mitch Dess, who's a young man that's played a lot of football for us. Mitch has started out camp very well. Nathaniel Osterloo, who's another young man that you're going to hear more about. And Derek Kumaro, and so I feel very good about the wide receiver core. Losing Marcus Hudson, I was nervous about that. Obviously, anybody would be. But feel very good about that crew that Coach Pesek has there. Running back, I tell you, Alex Pete's a guy that I'll be honest with you, we should have got him on the football field more last year. Hard to do when you got Drew running, you know, but we should have got him some more snaps. And that's not a criticism of last year. It's more so hindsight's 2020. Does that make sense? You kind of suddenly you jump into spring. I mean, Alex Pete made a cut the other day, and it made me go, whoa. I mean, and pretty impressive. We moved Jared Ware from slot position back to tailback. He's so comfortable there. Not that he was uncomfortable at slot, but there's something about being at home, if that makes sense. And so I feel really good about that tailback crew. And that's not even to mention Ronnie Ponick. I mean, goodness gracious. He gives us that physical guy that'll lower the shoulder and get us that extra yard when needed.
In the spring, and I guess last 2 weeks ago, you mentioned needing to simplify the offense to play faster.
Yep.
So there's less thinking involved. In what ways is the offense, I guess, being simplified so that guys can play faster?
Sure, that's a great question because I tell you, Jalen, that might be the toughest part of our job. What's too much? What's too little? What's too much? What's too little? And us coaches, we're really good. Every one of us is really good at too much. I mean, it's easy to be good at too much. It's terribly easy. Which that's people say, really? Yeah, that's the easy scenario to have happen. You know, I think the ultimate thing, and so I mean, to answer your question, I mean, we look at it philosophically in the sense of what can we do to have great execution, perfect execution. Nobody's ever going to be perfect, but you strive for perfection. So excellent. Perfection. Maybe there we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Excellent execution. And you know if you're not getting consistent, excellent execution. It's too much. It's too much. Dropped balls, fumbled balls, not going the right direction, not finishing the blocks in the manner that we should. Or on defense, giving up big plays, not causing enough fumbles. Those things are all symbolic of too much. Missing tackles. And so those are the symptoms of too much. They really are. And so when you start having those symptoms, you got to then say, okay, where's the fat? What gives us enough multiplicity that we're not completely predictable? Does that make sense? And that's really I think ultimately Coach Jennings, he's very systematic in his preparation for practice, his preparation for camp. He's a big pie chart guy. Very seriously. What percentage of practice is going to be on this? What percentage of a game is going to be this? And that pie chart, that concept, gives you a framework to work from. And when those other symptoms, when symptoms start showing up, let's put it that way, when the wrong symptoms start showing up, then you got to start adjusting your pie chart. And that's one of the things in the interview process that I was really excited about. You know, Pete was his ability that when he came in, he was very systematic with how he looked at that. And that pie chart is not the same every year. Does that make sense? It kind of goes back to culture. Every team has its own different thing, and that is true. One year your pie chart on inside zone might look like that. Another year it might be like that. That can depend on your players. It can depend on the defenses. It can depend on your defense in all reality. But the ability to be able to come up with a plan and be able to adjust that, to keep it simple, it's not something that you just, that pie chart is not a constant. It doesn't sit and stay in the same percentages. It can evolve during the course of a season. It can evolve from year to year. It's a fluid concept. But that's the thing that allows you to keep it simple, is looking for those symptoms and being systematic in how you approach it.
last year you had a brutal schedule, 6 road games, first 3 games, 4 games on the road, a little bit more manageable schedule this year? You feeling good about 5 home games?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. One thing I can guarantee you this, Gary. Excuses are unacceptable, and we teach that to our players. When we have excuses, we become victims. Don't ever make yourself a victim. I'm not going to make 6 away games. I'm not going to make myself an excuse, and I'm not going to make myself a victim. Does that make sense? The football field is 120 yards long. It's what it is. We've all seen Hoosiers. Yep, that hoop was 10 foot high, and so I won't take that as a reason for our season last year. I didn't get it done. We were 7-3. So out of those 10 opportunities, we won 7 of them. That's on me. And it's all about making corrections, and I'm not going to put it on that. Getting back to your schedule, the schedule is, it's a pretty exciting schedule. One, it's exciting for me. Dubuque is our first game. Personally, Coach Zwiefel, the head coach at Dubuque, I played football for him, and so it's exciting for me to get a chance to coach against the guy that, one, was my coach, but 2, he's actually the guy that got me into coaching. And so I'm greatly indebted to him for that. So it's a lot of fun for me personally. That's the personal side of it. Very good football team. I mean, every year, they're number 1, number 2 in that league. And so that'll be a great test coming out of the gate. I know Coach Z. They'll throw every bullet at us. I can guarantee you that. And it's going to be a heck of a game. And so I think and then kind of really coming into that Concordia game is a great transition. I mean, our guys all got a burr in their saddle after that game last year. So, there's the opportunity to get Concordia here and play them, and that's a great game. Terry Horan and those guys, they play great football, we're 2 similar teams. We pride ourselves on physicality. We pride ourselves on discipline. And that to me is part of what makes that game pretty exciting. Middle Georgia State, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of speed on that team. I can guarantee you that. They're a team that's transitioning to NAI, so we're not as familiar with them as we are with Concordia and Dubuque. And then obviously starting out with lacrosse, I think that's a great game to start off. It's a great way to launch the conference season.
You said early on that you felt like the guys are coming to camp and they get a sense that they feel like they have something to prove. Do I sense from your last answer that you feel that way too?
Oh yeah, you do. It's the beautiful part of Whitewater is the expectation and standard we hold for ourselves. That's the beautiful part of it. It really is. And 7-3 is not satisfactory to anybody here. That I can promise you. And it's interesting because I've had a few people that are would say, "Oh gosh, 7-3," and I'm like, "Yeah, 7-3." we were both saying it in 2 different ways, and no, we do. And the thing I'm excited about is I feel like we've made a lot of corrections. And that's I'll tell you this. I realized this year. This was my 35th college football camp this year. So I've coached 31, and I had 4 as a player. And the thing that, to me, that's kind of lost track of. Say your question again.
Just asking about
something to prove. Yeah. And I'll tell you this. That standard, being here and being a part of that standard is so cool. It's so cool because there's places that don't have a high standard. And the passion that people around here have for Warhawk football is so cool. I've been at places where, I'm not kidding you, I've been at other schools where my neighbor, after our big win, he'd come walking over and I'd be grilling and all excited, kind of have my first night off of the week, and we just got done with a big win, and he asked me, have you guys started your season yet? And you laugh, and I'm not kidding you. Yeah. You know, we're here, no, people know you had your first game. People know you started camp. People know, and that to me is beautiful. That is awesome. And that's what truly, one of the many things that makes Whitewater special. And so, yeah, we've made our corrections. We've made a lot of corrections in what we feel in developing our discipline of learning. And that to me is the way truly coming into this camp is emphasizing our discipline to our learning, and our discipline to our teaching, staying true to that. And I think our lack of discipline last year caused us to, and I'm not even going to say lose 3 games, to not play to our standard of play. Does that make sense? Because there was times we won games and we did not play to our standard of play. And that's truly what it's about, is having a standard of expectation, win or lose, how we execute each and every play.
You talking about the field being, they're 120 yards long everywhere you go, but one has to rave a little bit about the facilities here that have been improved, the locker room and things like that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Arnie, that's it's terribly exciting. We've been able to build our addition onto the locker room. I shouldn't say we. I didn't pound any nails or pour any concrete. But obviously, myself and Coach Brezowitz raising money for that facility and being part of that building project. And I got to give Coach Brezowitz great amount of credit because I've never been a part of building anything. And I will tell you this, I will never build a home after this experience, but it's not negatively, but it is a complex process. Does that make sense? But Coach Brezowitz has been really a great mentor through this process of building this facility, and I need to give him a ton of credit for that. But to be able to get that addition onto our locker room, now we have one locker room. We actually have one. We used to have 2 separate kind of small, narrow locker rooms. Now we have one kind of what you'd call a big room that 110 lockers are in there. We also built on an addition what we call a hydrotherapy room for all of our student athletes, not just football players. It's got 2 plunge pools, so after an athlete trains here, whether it's basketball, football, soccer, volleyball, whatever it may be, they can come in and get in the plunge pools, which ultimately helps with their recovery quicker, so they'll recover faster. So we have those 2 plunge pools, and then we have what we call a hydrotherapy pool, which has a treadmill in it. So those athletes that have a knee or an ankle or a lower extremity injury, you can get them running and the buoyancy lifts them off. So studies have proven that you can get an athlete back 2 weeks earlier. So if you have a baseball player that's using that, if they can get back 2 weeks earlier, that's probably 8 games almost, isn't it? Wouldn't you say, Gary? And for a basketball player, that's going to be 4 games. For a football player, that's 2, which is huge. That's 1/5 of our season. So we're really state-of-the-art facility that allows for really the health of our student athletes here at UW-Whitewater. So it's been, very fortunate, and we were really able to launch that out to the fellows on August 10th.
Kevin, I was wondering if I get a couple comments on a couple former players that are having some pretty good success right now. First of all, Brady Grable getting the head football coaching job at Fort Atkins.
I'm so excited about having Brady in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? And he's been over and watched practice, I think it was Sunday night. Or Sunday morning, excuse me, that he came over. I'll tell you, I'm excited for the town of Fort Atkinson. That's, Brady and I were talking about, their numbers are really high in that town. Where you talk to a lot of high schools around the state of Wisconsin, numbers are kind of dropped down a little bit in a number of high schools. So that town is a football town, and they got a great coach. And Brady's a guy, his energy and his passion and his desire to teach young men is fantastic. It's a perfect match. That's a perfect match, Gary.
And of course, Jake Kumro's having a good camp up in Green Bay right now.
He really is. And that's, the thing to me, it's so great. Jake dropped by this spring, stopped in and watched practice, and we had a chance to talk. And one, he's excited about being a part of the Packers. Two, he was excited about the opportunity. He felt he was very healthy. He's and really, he's such a driven, motivated young man, and gritty, and that's the type of thing that gives a guy a shot at the NFL. Obviously he's blessed with athleticism, but you got to have those other attributes to each day come in, grind and be a professional and demand that of yourself. And it's been really neat to watch Jake grow since that first year he came here. And his first year he came here, he didn't make a big splash. It was really his second year, I think, is when his grind, his commitment to the process of how he was going to work at it really came. And I guess that's called growing. I guess we all grow up a little bit, all the time. And he really, his growth over time, continued to push himself to grow is fantastic. And so we're all crossing fingers to watch him do the Lambeau leap the other night. That was, I know it had to be special for him, but I know it was special for all of us, the Warhawk Nation. Let's put it that way.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Coach.
Awesome. Thanks,
Kevin.
gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you.